Hello! Today I'm going to be looking at this exciting box from Emax, but just before we get into that, a quick reminder to please like or dislike this video if you didn't like it. Comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find it, click on a little bell icon, it's going to tell you when I'm uploading stuff. What we have here is the Emax EZ Pilot. It's designed for a first time novice type to be able to pick it up and use FPV. I've been quite excited about this, and I'll tell you why. And there's been a couple of goes at other companies trying to sort of do a beginner box, and they've mainly fell short because they weren't friendly enough for a beginner. The reason I'm quite excited about seeing what's in here is that the Emax quads I've had, and I've had the Tiny Hawk and the Baby Hawk, the out-of-the-box flying experience has been really good. They put a lot of effort in to getting the tune right so you could pick it up and fly, and I'm talking about the sort of hobby grade products. It's literally no tuning necessary. I could pick it up, fly it around, it would feel really good. So I'm hoping that is translated to this more sort of normal consumer type thing for just your average person to pick up and be able to fly it and FPV with it. Anyway, let's see what's inside. The premise of this is you get the entire kit, everything you need to FPV something and fly it around. No need for a computer or anything like that. Opening the box. Well, we are of course presented with packaging, and first off we've got some instructions. Pop this down and we'll go through it. So here's the little quad itself, and overall shape is not too dissimilar to something like the Tiny Hawk, but there are some key differences. First off, we've got brushed motors coming through here. Not sure what size they are, doesn't say anywhere. And if we have a good look around, there's nowhere to plug in USB to use Betaflight. I don't know what software it's using, but the idea is you don't ever need to do that. It's going to be set up. There's a sort of beginner, intermediate and advanced setting all on the controller, and you would do it through there. Your sort of standard looking little all-in-one FPV camera, nice low sort of neutral angle there. On the reverse side here we've got an Emax 450 milliamp hour high voltage battery, like 80C. This is pretty standard. This is the same one that came in the Tiny Hawk actually. And just underneath here we've got the VTX, and we've got just a button accessible there to be able to press and change things like channel and bands. Also we've got a little screwdriver and some little fixings for if you lose stuff. We've got a simple USB charger for the battery. Spare set of props, stickers, so you can stick them on here, plenty of room for those. And then we're in the next layer, which looks like this. So in here we've got this controller, and this feels pretty good for a sort of game style controller. It's quite big, feels quite substantial in your hand, and the sticks have got some decent movement. They've got some height to them. They're not overly sprung. Got a two-way switch and a three-way switch here. We've got a USB connector here. This has got its own 18650 battery in, and you can charge it straight in. Then we've got some trim buttons. Yeah, that's about it. So that looks quite interesting. Oh, I think this is the on-off button you press. USB cable. This looks like the charge cable for this guy. Then we've got the goggles. So you've got a sort of pair of box style goggles here. Got this little Omni down in the box, and I'm instantly drawn to this thing to see what's under there. It is another SMA connector. Are these like diversity goggles, or they just shut one off? Hard to say, isn't it? So we've got a movable Fresnel lens on this one. So you've got some adjustment, channel, frequency, menu, and something else. Let me just try these on, see the comfort level. I have to take my glasses off to wear them. I'd describe that as not bad. It's not cutting into my nose or anything. I could probably just loosen this bit off a little bit. It just feels a bit tight on the top bit, but yeah. Nice amount of padding around here, fairly comfy. Display looks big, but we'll have to turn it on and see how that looks, but promising start there. And finally a little bag here, and this is the battery pack for the goggles. And again it's got a little USB connector so you can recharge from there. It's another 18650, and if you want to you can get the battery out to replace it. It's just sat in there, look. And that's it. There's no setup to do. We should just be able to charge up the battery and take it for a fly. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just a quick check through the instructions here. And one of the interesting features about it, and one of the reasons I think a pure beginner who's never flown anything before could fly it, is the way it works with the EZ Pilot software, they call it. So in the beginner mode, it has a barometer, so it tries to hold its height. you've got a limited movement there, and when you go like full throttle up or down, it doesn't like climb up high. It has a set amount that it will go up and down. So if you like drop the throttle all the way, it should just come down gently. And then intermediate gives a little bit more, and advanced drops the barometer hold and gives more control. I think they're all self-leveling. We'll have to figure that out. So we're going to try a little bit of line of sight just to see what it can do and see what it looks like in the air. And then we'll pop the goggles on and see what it's like to FPV. Let's do it. Just wanted to talk you through the modes here because they are a little bit different than if you're used to normal flying. We've got the flight modes, beginner, intermediate, advanced there, and this is the arm disarm switch. So I'm going to start it on beginner mode, and it's quite interesting because basically this throttle stick doesn't do an awful lot and this stick works completely different. So if we just arm it, you'll notice nothing happens until we go quite a way into the throttle, and then we can pretty much bring it down until we're happy with where it is. So let's just drop it a bit. At this point, we are basically flying with one stick. It's holding height, and the throttle stick doesn't do anything really until you get quite close to the extents. So what this right stick does is basically yaw and pitch. So we can fly it forwards and basically turn it round all on one thumb. And of course we're not having to do anything on the throttle. Yaw movement doesn't do anything because it's on the other stick. And so this is supposed to be the really easy way of flying. And it's just a bit weird. And if you want to change height, you've got to go quite a way on the stick to go either up or down. And then when you go anywhere near the middle, it'll just go back again quite happily. I noticed mine did tend to float away a little bit. It's worth doing the gyro calibration and then doing any trimming you have to. It seems to be, it will fly better in advanced mode in terms of the trim than the other modes. But it's still pretty easy. And I think people will get used to sort of flying and be able to come out of this mode quite quickly. So let's get it into the next mode now. It's just a bit weird because I want to use my roll stick when I come into land, but I can't. Okay. About there-ish. Set that down. As you see, it's like full stick down and it will sort of gently come down. Now when we go to intermediate mode, which is here, we will get the yaw stick and we will get the roll stick, but it'll still be on the barometer hold. So let's just get that in the air again. It goes up quite a way before it will come down again. And it's much easier to correct any drift, obviously, when you're in this mode. So now we've got roll, and you can see how much stick we can use and how much it moves. It's very gentle. Got pitch, and of course we got yaw. And we've still got this massive area where this doesn't do anything until we go all the way up nearly, or all the way down. So again, I think the barometer sort of thing is really handy, but you do have to have, of course, quite a clear space. It's great that you don't have to think about it, but that's only working if you've got no obstacles in front of you, so that's something to be aware of. But yeah, pretty easy, just fly along, really easy to do line of sight here, and I'm a rubbish line of sight flyer, as it shows, and you know, I can happily fly around like this. Same rule as flying outside, really. Get a little bit of height, get yourself safe, and you'll be fine. You can get all the way out there, no problem. So let's bring this down and we'll go into the final mode, which is advanced, which is this switch here. At this point, you don't have the barometer hold and everything else is still the same. So we've still got self-leveling, we've still got quite gentle stick movement, but we've basically got control of our throttle now, so it's now up to us about whether we go up or down or not. But again, still very gentle. I can move the sticks all the way. I can really slam them around. You're not really going to do anything. So this is quite nice, I think, in terms of progression, because it's all about how many sticks can people think about at once. Can they cope with having lots of sticks to think about? And so it's kind of nice that this moves them gently on and gets them used to it. and that's the battery gone. There's no real indication. It's just like, I'm landing now, that's it. Good time to put a new battery in and do some FPV and see how that goes. So here I go for my maiden FPV flight, and I should explain that I'm recording this using my Fat Shark goggles, because the goggles from Emax don't have any way of doing DVR recording, and they haven't got AV out. But I'm actually wearing the goggles, and the goggles are pretty good. I'm short-sighted. I use like a -6 diopter normally, but because this looks like you're quite close to the screen and you've got some focus adjustment with the ability to move that Fresnel lens, I can see perfectly fine in this, which is great news. You don't get anything as far as an OSD goes on this quad. What you just do get on the screen in the goggles is the channel and the band you're on, which is useful in case you don't know where you are, of course, or you're flying with friends and you can tell them exactly where you are. But this is really easy to fly. Obviously I'm flying in advanced mode here because it feels very natural to me, and I was thinking that this was going to be really sort of unable to do anything fast enough for me, but it's actually fine. I can get a decent burst of speed when I want it. The yaw will spin it around reasonably quickly, but not out of control, and I'm not feeling I'm lacking in sort of control in the roll and the pitch. Obviously it's nice and gentle. It's not sort of super quick, so you won't be sort of, you know, looping or throwing this around really quickly. But you can fly it around the house. It's a great little quad that you can sort of explore little gaps and bits and pieces in your house with. So from my point of view, I enjoyed the fact that let me fly very slowly and accurately, and I sort of start off by seeing if I can just fly nicely behind myself, and it's absolutely no problem at all. After that I moved on to my old favourite, the dining room table, just to see if I could squeeze between the legs and just get through okay. And again, it's pretty easy. It holds position nicely. It's at the right angle, so it's very simple to fly slowly and accurately. And even if you do bump into a couple of bits, it just handles it no problem and bounces out. The only thing I will mention, where I'm used to flying the Betaflight style quads, is when I crash, I'm used to using turtle mode to be able to turn over and fly again. Obviously this hasn't got that, so if you do crash, which I did plenty of times, and turn it over, you actually have to get up off your bum and go and pick it up again. Pain for a lazy person like me. As you saw it land itself before, if it hits 3.3 volts it will just go down on its own to protect the battery. But I got a good 4 minutes out of this one on this first flight. So what I've done, I've shown recordings using my Fat Shark goggles, but of course I wasn't wearing the Fat Shark goggles. I was wearing these regular goggles, and you know, there was bits of breakup in that, but I wanted to try and show what this looked like. So I thought what I'd do this time, I'd actually go ahead and wear my Fat Shark goggles, and I'll try and film in here. So I try and just pop my camera sort of like that. It's not perfect, but you get the gist. You can see the little information on the top of the screen, and if I go ahead and like press the channel button, you can see that starts going up like that. That's all you get on the screen as far as this goes. Let me just get back to where we should be. And I'm going to put my Fat Sharks on. We're going to have a quick fly and see how it feels. So I've just put my Fat Shark recording alongside in the lower right corner there, so you can see the exact difference. Obviously the Fat Shark's costing an awful lot more money, and the rapid fire module is the best in the business for getting rid of any static in a sort of situation like this. And what I can see from this is we've got a little bit more breakup on the goggles. We get a little bit of static when going around the walls, but the actual view you get, I think, is quite comparable. I was flying around, I wasn't feeling I was, you know, in danger of crashing at all. Obviously you're sort of seeing this second hand because it's my camera filming a screen, which isn't ideal, and you wouldn't have that sort of thing at the bottom where your nose would be, because your nose would be there and you wouldn't see it. So the screen works really nicely. It really does fill the vision, and as I mentioned before, me being short-sighted wasn't a problem. I could see exactly what was going on. The only problem people have faced is I've plonked it on the heads of a couple of people who are particularly long-sighted,
and they just couldn't see a thing. It's all a blur to them. So if you're long-sighted, there's a little bit of focus there for you, but if you're particularly long-sighted, you will need to wear something like contact lenses or something to be able to see this. But regular vision, short-sighted, a little bit long-sighted, you'll be okay. But yeah, again, this is a couple of flights in, so I'm going a little bit faster and stuff, just really enjoying myself. Now, I've flown quite a lot of whoops and all sorts of indoor quads, some of which are really fast and really powerful, but there's always a place, I think, for a quad that is very good at being able to fly slowly, so you can sort of fit through any gap you want. You can explore your house without having to sort of constantly hold it back. And this quad does an excellent job for that. And of course, people that are coming new to the hobby take a while to get to this sort of level, but as soon as they do, they will have an absolute blast being able to see their house or whatever from fun and different new angles. Again, another decent 4-minute flight off this battery. Decent flight times. You only get one battery in the pack, but of course it's easy to get more if you want them.
Well, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this. Emax have done what they set out to do, which is basically produce something that a pure beginner can fly. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find a pure beginner to stick them in their hands, but I really do believe that, looking at what we've got here. And it's an interesting thing because it kind of straddles the gap between hobby and toy. You might consider this sort of brush quad to be in the toy market, but the stuff that surrounds it and some of the tech around it is definitely on the hobby side. Particularly impressed with the bits that came with it. These box type goggles, lovely big image, fits on the face nicely. They've got a focus adjustment so I could see what I was doing. That's good. There's future expandability here. This second SMA port, you can obviously put an antenna on. You can change these up to circular polarized antennas if you want to. I didn't go through this in much detail, but there's a menu button where you can change various aspects of like the brightness and stuff. And apart from the channel and frequency button, there's this button A, which is like an auto search thing. So all good. Great little pair of goggles, those ones. Similarly, very impressed with the controller. Traditionally, this has always been the weak point of this sort of package, but this felt really good. The sticks are long enough to get decent resolution. They're not too heavily sprung. Fits in your hand wonderfully. Yeah, great. And of course the quad itself, very easy to fly. The setup for it has been done, so even if you're bashing these sticks around as much as you like, the quad is doing a nice gentle movement. There is no setup to do. It's not possible to do any setup. There's no USB port. It doesn't run, as far as I know, Betaflight. It just flies for you. All great stuff. The other thing they've done, which is very clever, is make everything about USB. So you've got the charger for the battery, USB. You've got USB port here. You've got USB port here. And on the controller and the goggles, they both use an 18650, which are very easy to get and very easily replaceable. Obviously, you can get your spare Emax style batteries. They're not quite going to be in every corner shop, but no special charger equipment needed is what we're talking about. So do I have any niggles with it? Yeah, a couple. So when I first tried it out on the novice mode, the barometer took me by surprise. So you have to go sort of almost all the way up in the throttle before it comes up. And then even if you put it right down again, it's coming up to about 6 or 7 feet before it thinks about coming down. I would have liked to see it just a little bit more progressive. So you've got this thing where it goes slowly before it reaches maximum speed. It was either up or down. And it certainly took me by surprise the first time I tried that. But had to be pretty impressed with that height hold. I could put it in that first beginner mode and just hold that one stick and just fly it around quite happily. Doing the gyro calibration, I mentioned this before. I'll put a quick thing in the corner about what this looks like. It's basically just turning this switch on and off 6 times and the LED go green and it's done. Why? Because I was having some drift and the full extent of the trim wasn't quite fixing it for me, but as soon as I did that gyro calibration, everything worked a lot better there. Obviously for me, being used to flying quads, it was very strange that beginner mode. I was constantly trying to use the roll to bring it back, and of course that is now the yaw stick. But it's really hard to put yourself in the sort of mindset of someone coming in fresh from it, and being able to just have that quad sat there and being able to just move it around and not have to think about what to do with this stick. And thinking is very, very easy. And it seems that you'd get that pretty quickly and you'd be able to go for that second mode where you'd be able to still have that height hold and putting in a little bit of yaw as well as your roll. The thing I'd mention about when you're starting off, and for anybody thinking of getting this for somebody, the more space you can have, the better. In a small house like mine, which is quite confined, I'm okay flying in it. I did hit plenty of stuff. But the more space you can get, the better, because it sort of takes away the panic that, oh my god, I'm going towards the wall, what do I do, and panic on the stick. So yeah, nice big spaces are always going to serve you well for learning to fly. Of course, the only thing you can't do with it, because it's not like a Betaflight quad or anything, is if you become a sort of absolute expert at flying this around, you can't make it go faster or do it so you can do rolls and stuff like that. So once you get to the end of what you want to do with this, although I always kind of think there's a place for it because I like an Explorer quad that can fly slowly. So you're looking at replacing the quad and the radio with something sort of bigger, more powerful, more hobby. But at least you get to keep the goggles. You can keep going with those, and they'll go forward with you into the hobby. So yeah, overall, I have to say, an excellent little introduction for the hobby, and the price is about right. I don't like to talk about prices because they do tend to change a lot, but about $109 for the whole setup we saw here is, I think, pretty damn good value for money. Get someone into the hobby, and of course at this weight there's no regulation to think about, but you'd be in your house anyway, so nobody cares. So yes, this has been the Emax EZ Pilot, kindly supplied by Emax for review. Many thanks to them, and of course you can find links down below for a way you can check this out in more detail. Hope that's been helpful, and I'll catch you next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.